In this exercise, I'm going to introduce you to one of the most powerful features inside of Photoshop. It's a feature that has been really growing on me over the years because it gives you a high degree of control. And it's called Shadows Highlights. And what it allows you to do is basically breathe life into the shadows inside of an image, open them up, if you will, and then tone down the highlights. Now, we're not using a color correction feature, even though it's organized along with the other color correction commands inside Photoshop. It's actually a filter that's just been placed in the wrong location. And that's why I'm discussing it in the context of the filtering effects. So what I'd like you to do is take this image right here. I've gone ahead and saved my progress as deadcalm.jpg. And the big difference is I went ahead and flattened the image because after you apply lens distortion, you get an independent layer. Then after I got done straightening the image and cropped away the extra pixels and the transparency and all that jazz, there was no reason not to flatten it. So that's what I've done here. And I've gone ahead and saved the file inside of the 17 Shads Highlights folder. And you'll have to excuse my abbreviation of shadows and my misspelling of highlights, but I'm just trying to keep the folder names as short as possible. Anyway, so we've got this image from Felix Miziaznikov, and we're going to apply the Shadows Highlights filter to this image, but let's apply it to an independent floating layer. So I'll press Control-Alt-J or Command-Option-J on a Mac in order to jump the layer, and I'll go ahead and call this S/H. Because after all, those letters apply to just one command inside Photoshop. Let's go ahead and choose it. You go up to the Image menu, then choose Adjustments, and choose Shadows Highlights. Again, it's a filter that's not located in the Filter menu. And I'll explain what I mean in just a moment. Now, the first time you choose the command, it presents you with just two options. So it seems pretty darn straightforward. It's actually much more intricate than this. What you do is you determine how much brightening you want to apply to the shadows and how much darkening you want to apply to the highlights. And these default values right here, go ahead and boost the shadows and don't do really anything to the highlights, as you can see. And this is way too much boosting where the shadows are concerned, because the bigger problem with this image is not that we need to elevate the shadows, it's that we need to downplay the highlights. So I'm going to take this shadows value down to 10%, let's say, and then I'll tab to the highlights value and I'll increase it to 50% in order to temper those highlights. And what I end up getting is this extraordinary sunburn effect. So we're definitely bringing out a lot of luminance information inside of this image. And I think we have better sculptural contouring, a bunch of good stuff going on. But the bad stuff is his face is now sunburned inexplicably, because obviously a moment ago he was doing just fine in that department. He did not have a burn. And then you can also see some halos. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this image and notice this horizon line. We've got a bounce going upward and something of a dark bounce coming downward, not quite as significant. And as a result, we're flattening the scene a little bit. We're overemphasizing the color saturation, and we have some obvious halos. So even though these values are the values we will end up using in order to breathe life into this image, make it look just awesome, as you'll see, so far, we're not getting the right results at all. And that's because we have no control thus far over our radius values. And that's something we desperately need control over. And we get that control by turning on this checkbox right here, Show More Options. And I'm going to show you those more options in the next exercise.